giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Art of Selling Travel Podcast. I'm so excited for this one. On this episode, I got to welcome my good friend, Sandra Mclemore of Travel Marketing and Media for a conversation about marketing and why it's so important that you have marketing and how to look at it. There's a lot of times when I'm talking with travel advisors and they're struggling why they can't get any sales. And somewhere along the line, somebody fed this story of, well, all you got to do is open up your business and there you go. That's all there is to it. And so the conversation that Sandra and I had was kind of based on this concept of a restaurant. You can't just open your doors and there you go. That's all there is to it. There's an entire process that takes place. So hang on, have a listen, and enjoy this episode. Hello, Sandra. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Okay, so as I said before, anytime I get to geek on marketing or sales or business or just anything with brilliant minds, it excites me. And so let's just jump straight into it. Obviously, because, as I mentioned, we know each other. We've been rattling on for forever before we started recording. But the one thing we truly wanted to talk about today is the biggest mistake travel agency owners and travel advisors are doing that's costing them in their marketing.
Yeah. I love this conversation that we're about to have again, because we had it before we hit record, but that's good because we're passionate about it. I think the biggest mistake that travel agency owners, and I'm going to refer to them as travel agencies throughout this episode, and that encapsulates advisors, agents, designers, whatever you want to call yourself, and also agencies, no matter what size you are. So if it's just you and you think, oh my gosh, I can't imagine having someone else, it's just me, or if there's 100 of you, we're talking to all of you by saying travel agencies in this episode. The biggest mistake that travel agencies make is not knowing their numbers and approaching their business as a travel professional, not a CEO. And I actually was planning for a big keynote that I'm doing in Europe. A lot of you are coming in a few months' time. And I was writing out my notes for my keynote on the weekend. And I wrote down this one note that's here in front of me now. And it says, if you were to apply for a corporate job at Google tomorrow, what job would you give yourself? Like if you could just go in and take a job off the pinboard, what would you give yourself? Now, some of you would be in the cafeteria, some would be in the social, like in HR, some would be in a social role, some would be in sales, some would be in marketing. I think that none of you would apply to be the CEO of Google and give yourself that job, knowing that you didn't even have to go through an interview process. You could just have the job, have the salary. And I think the reason for that is because we know that we don't have that skill set. We don't have that experience. We don't know what we're doing. We would never do that. We would take something that was in our comfort zone. Yet, the day that you opened your travel agency, the day that you started selling travel or decided to be a travel planning professional, you became a CEO. And that blows my mind when you stop and think about it. You're like, oh my gosh, I am the CEO. Like for me, I am the CEO of Mclemore. That is actually my business name. And underneath that, we have four different companies. And I'm the CEO of each individual company. Travel marketing and media is just one of them. You are the CEO, whether or not you are what that term that I hate, independent contractor, you're an IC, you are a CEO of your own business. And so when Glenda and I, when we started, you and I, this conversation this morning, I was like, you know what? This is why they struggle. They struggle with not jumping in with the CEO hat on because they never had to apply for a CEO role and go through a job interview process. You just gave it to yourself the day that you decided to become a business owner. So my point is not that you have no business doing it. You are exactly where you are meant to be. But it means that you have to watch out for the red flags in the way that you work and the way that you behave. And the first red flag, biggest mistake that we can jump into is not knowing your numbers. And I guess one of the analogy that I'd love to work with today is the restaurant industry. Sometimes it's easier to take ourselves out of our industry, out of that mindset, and look at somebody else. So imagine if you were opening a restaurant and it was a brand new restaurant, not a chain, just yours, your passion, your dream, because you're passionate about serving good food, about instigating a good time with people, hosting people. You would know a lot of numbers. You would have sat down and found a commercial property. Thankfully, travel agencies don't have to do that, but you would have found a commercial property. You would know what your rent is going to be. You would have figured out your startup costs by fitting out the restaurant. You would have counted all of your kitchen equipment, your restaurant front of house equipment. You would then have decided on a niche for your restaurant. So on the cuisine, are you a Chinese restaurant, a South American restaurant? Are you a grill? Are you a seafood restaurant? You then create a menu, and you would know your numbers inside of that menu. You would know your food cost. If I buy my food at this, how do I make sure that I have enough portions that the food doesn't spoil and go rotten and I don't waste food/money? And how do I make sure that I have enough on hand that I'm not telling people, sorry, we're sold out of that? You would know how much it costs to pay your staff. And most importantly, you would know how many tables you have to have in your restaurant to get the correct table turn to make enough profit. And table turn refers to the number of people that sit at a table in one night. So it might be 1.5. So you'll turn over that table 2 times, 1 time, 1.5 times in a night on average across your restaurant. I think we see the easiest way that we see this is on cruise ships. They already do a perfect table turn, first and second seating. If it was just one dining room where everybody just sat down and every table was occupied 1 time, and if they were charging for that, they wouldn't make as much money as they could with a first and a second seating. There's some restaurants here in LA actually that have first and second seating. They have first, second, and third seating. So you can go in for a 6 p.m. reservation, an 8 p.m. reservation, or an evening 10 p.m. and bar reservation. I think it's so clever because it actually gives them a 3-table turn in a night. You would know if you were a restaurant owner that you would have to market to get your restaurant full. You put yourself out there on OpenTable. You'd pay the advertising on OpenTable, the app where you can book restaurants around the world. You would make sure that all of the people in the neighborhood knew you. You would make sure that you were on Yelp or whatever restaurant directory, and you would pay advertising because you know you cannot burn time and money with nobody in your restaurant. Yet in travel agencies, I don't think that a lot of travel agencies have the same mindset. I think there's very much a Noah's Ark mindset of build it and they will come. Let me jump onto Canva, make a logo. Let me jump onto GoDaddy and make a website, or let me get a business name. Oh gosh, let me jump on social media and post anything that could have anything to do with travel. And on the days where I don't have something, let me post my cat or what I ate. And it's a totally different mindset, Glenda. It's such a different mindset to a restaurant owner or to any other business owner. So I think that has to be the number one mistake that I'm going to call out people of all experience levels.
Yep.
Newbies starting up their travel business, people who are stuck in a rut in the middle, and people who are already doing well, is just not having those numbers and that plan as if they were a CEO or as if they were a restaurant.
And I think you really did hit the nail on the head there, because if we all step out and we think about the idea of opening a restaurant, we know from a logical perspective how hard that's going to be, how much work is involved, how much preparation's involved. And so I'm going to be a little controversial and say we're in this era right now where there's a lot of host agencies and other such that are saying it's so easy. Do you love to plan travel for your friends and family? Come be a travel advisor. It's so easy. We don't say to somebody, you love cooking, come be a chef and open your own restaurant. Like, it's going to be easy. Your friends and family love what you cook. Great. Open a restaurant. There is so much that goes into it, but I think the industry as a whole sometimes doesn't give that same recognition to the travel agency owner. There's a lot that goes into it. Now, I'm not a big let's sit on the sidelines for years at a time person. But you need to have a plan. There's going to be overhead, even if you work from home, right down to, you said, with a restaurant, they've got to have their equipment. They've got to have this, that, the other. You've got to have systems and processes in place, and you've got to make sure you have a computer that's going to keep up, and that it's not just the family computer, but one that you can work on. If a client, like if you're in client hours, that your kids aren't, but mom, I want to work on the computer. Dad, why can't I do this? But actually have dedicated space and equipment for running that business.
Yeah, I think if we were to ask ourselves, like if we were to ask all of the listeners today and ourselves, what business would you love to have if you didn't have this business? And I think to myself, I've always wanted to have a cocktail bar for people in their 40s and 50s that plays old school 80s nights, 90s nights, R&B nights, Motown nights. And I would love it to just be a place where you could come, and it would have as many alcoholic cocktails. It would have as many non-alcoholic cocktails, because for those of you who know me outside of work stuff, I'm not a big drinker. I barely have one foot in drinking, and that has been my dream. Why have I not done it yet? Because it's obvious. It's obvious to the non-business brained person. You need to have money to open a cocktail lounge. You need to have a building. You need to have permits. And before you even start listing it out, you're done with that idea already, and you put it back on the shelf, and you're like, if I won the lottery, it becomes if I won the lottery pipe dream.
Yeah.
And look, it's not a pipe dream for me. It's a one day, but I know, because I know how much money it would cost and the risks involved, I would only do it if I could easily afford it. Didn't need investors. So I have to ask people out there why, and this is like a little bit mean girl, but it's with good intention. Why did you think you could open a business, a travel business, with no money? If you're listening to this and you have no money for marketing, if you are barely paying your bills, if you don't know where your next client is going to come from, and equally don't know how you're going to pay your next rent or your next mortgage or your next car note, you should not have a business right now. Don't leave Glenda's community. Don't leave my community. Stay around, but go get a full-time job and work. I have so many friends and friends of friends who ask me all the time, because Anthony and I have done so well in our businesses. They ask, didn't you start your business? Isn't your Genesis story a story of $40 where you bought a domain and 1 month of hosting, and then from there you were profitable month one? I'm like, yeah, but that's the stuff of unicorns. And I put back in every single dollar that I made into my business. I was making $900 per each sale that I made in the beginning, and I was putting $700 back into my business, and I was literally living off the $200. And people might think, well, you can't live off $200 a sale, right? So I had to make more sales. It didn't occur to me not to put back into my business. So if your dream would be to have a boutique clothing store or someone said to me the other day, I would love to own a plus size gym. No, they said women's gym. And I said, oh, a plus size gym would be even better, where everybody who came was on that high BMI and they had a comfortable place to work out. And their goal was to eventually graduate from there and feel comfortable in a non-plus size gym. I would love to own that business. That's up there with a cocktail lounge, but I know that they're going to cost money. So for anyone who's listening to this that has zero money for marketing, zero money to advertise, like if you can't afford $5 a day for ads, for Facebook ads to grow your list, you really have to press the pause button and say to yourself, until I've got this money to advertise, until I've got $300 a month for the next 2 months and I can keep up, then this is not for me. Because I think this restaurant analogy brings everything to life. They know their food costs, they know their staffing costs, they know their table turn, they know their marketing costs. You ask any restaurant owner at 8 p.m. on a Friday evening who's got a slow night how they feel. They already know the dollar amount of what they're hemorrhaging at 8 p.m.
Absolutely.
But travel businesses are like, I just go away for my next client. And you just kind of roll with the punches. And that's got to be a mindset shift that we change. And if you can make that change, I promise that you will be profitable. But I have to say, not knowing your numbers. And then we talked about briefly just there about not having, restaurant owners will have a niche. They're opening an Armenian restaurant. They're opening a fish grill. They're opening a something. No restaurant says, we're going to sell anything and everything. Just tell us what you want us to make. Like, not even Denny's IHOP really do that. They still
I have a story. There's a new restaurant in my town that opened, and
Mhm.
it's like the longest opening on the planet. We've all known they were going to open since before the pandemic. They opened in
Mhm.
December of 2023. So
Mhm.
a long haul. Anyways, back in the spring or summer, they said, we're getting close to opening. Tell us what you want on the menu. And so
Wow.
people were commenting everything else. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. Because I like, first off, you already picked your name and the reason behind your name. I'm not a fan of the name, but it is what it is. We'll all adapt. But all these ideas flooded in. I actually went back, double checked. Not one of the ideas that they were given showed up on their menu, in which case their menu matches their name. So why even ask people what they want if you aren't going to take any of it into consideration? But the
Yeah.
other thing is it also puts out that, because I was like, what do you mean? What do people want on the menu? You don't know what you're going to do on the menu? That was the thought that I had. And I'm like, what kind of restaurant doesn't even know what they want to serve or what they want to make?
Restaurant, I can answer that. It's a restaurant who hasn't done their numbers.
Yeah.
It's a restaurant. That is the kind of restaurant. And look, they might have, they don't even know what they don't know. But this is a restaurant that hasn't done their numbers, because if they had done their numbers, they would know every single item that they put on their menu, how much it costs to order that food, how much it costs after that meal is sold, what their profit margin is going to be from the food, because the food is what you're selling. The food is the only thing. The food and drink are the only things a restaurant sells. They don't sell anything else. There's no gift shop on the way out. They literally only sell food and drink. So if they've done that, it's because they haven't done their costs. If they haven't done their costs for their food, for their menu, it means they're not going to know their bar costs and they're not going to know their food costs. Back earlier in my career, I was my last corporate job was the head of onboard revenue for the entire Royal Caribbean. And that meant that I was responsible for every department's revenue on every ship, every day, every week, every cruise. And I would wake up in the morning to 24 ships worth of spreadsheets, and the ship would either be green or it'd be red. And the ships that were red, the first place that I would look to see where the problem was, because this wasn't reporting of past cruises, this is reporting of current day cruise.
Mm-hmm.
My job was to report to the senior management of Royal Caribbean, to the chairman of the board, to the CEO, what am I going to do this week to fix this red ship? And the first place, Glenda, that I would look every single time would be the food and bar costs. Why? They're not necessarily the highest yielding department on board. In fact, casino is, shortly followed by shore excursions. But they're the department that every passenger touches, and they have the most number of transactions. So I would go and I would ask the bar manager, like, dude, what is this bar cost? And he said, oh, we did a promotion, buy a cocktail, get a shot free. And I'm like, but do you know what that's done to your bar cost? He said, yes, we were busy all night. We had 10 people deep. People were screaming for the bartenders. I'm like, yes, it feels like a Vegas club atmosphere. And I know that if that was the ultimate determination of revenue, you nailed it. But my friend, it wasn't, because every time you did a cocktail and gave a free shot, yes, you got screaming ladies with their CPAS cards at the bar, but you smashed your bar cost through the roof, and you're now 10%, 5% over in your bar cost. This is where the ship is hemorrhaging money. Or I would go to the dining room and I would say, food and beverage manager, let's talk to the chef. What's going on here? And chef said, oh, we had so many people come back and do seconds of the lobster on formal night. Okay, well, what is the policy? Is this a lobster buffet? Or is this just like a one and done? What are we doing with our sides? Do we need bigger sides so that people are fuller when they leave the table? This is all to do with food costs. Oh, did we order so much lobster and people ate more steak than lobster that we didn't get to use it all? So I definitely think that that's a business that doesn't know its numbers, and travel agencies have got to know your numbers. So let's talk about which numbers they have to know. Before they know the numbers, let's go back and say they've got to know what kind of restaurant they're opening. Are you opening a grill, a seafood restaurant, a pancake parlor? Like, there is space for everybody out there. You cannot sell any food to anyone because you'll have so many problems. You won't have the right stuff on hand. Your staff will not be trained. They will have no idea. Can you imagine if you could just walk into a restaurant and order poached eggs and toast at night? It might be the easiest thing to do, that cruise might be the easiest thing to do, but it means that it throws off the entire kitchen and it throws off your entire travel business. So you have to know what your niche is. You have to know what your restaurant's going to be. Secondly, you have to know which suppliers you're going to work with. In the same way that you have suppliers, maybe cruise lines, hotels, resorts, travel insurance, tour operators, so does a restaurant. A restaurant has set alcohol suppliers, wine suppliers, vegetable suppliers, meat suppliers, dairy suppliers. They know exactly who those suppliers are. They negotiate costs. The more they buy, the bigger the volume, the better the discount they get. They know, they have good relationships with them where they can call and say, Sam, dude, I had a killer night last night. I'm low on cheese. Can you do anything to help me out today? That relationship between the restaurant and the supplier is critical. You have to know who your focused suppliers are. I recommend, I have an episode that you can listen to if this would help you, how to narrow down to 6 to 10 suppliers, no matter what your niche is. Imagine if the restaurant had 400 possible suppliers, they're never going to have a good relationship with all of them. But if they had just 6 to 10, the veggie guy, the meat guy, the dairy guy, girl, same thing, they would have better relationships. They would get better pricing. They could negotiate better profit margins. They could have help when there was a problem. You mess up, you didn't order enough chicken. Okay, call the meat guy, call the poultry guy and get more chicken. So you have to know what your niche is going to be. You have to pick your suppliers. And then you have to know, if I was to sell X number of trips at this average cost per booking, at this commission rate, how many clients I would need, how many bookings I would need to make for the year. And then once all of that is figured out, that's pretty simple. It's like a 5-minute formula to figure that out. The next level to that is, how many email subscribers do I need to have? How many people in my audience do I need to have? And some of you are thinking, I don't do email marketing, I do social media. Okay, let's play with that. Let's entertain that for a second as being equal for a second. Regardless if you're using social media or email marketing, how many people do you need to have in your audience to convert to X number of proposals or quotes? Out of that, based on your average sales skills, the longer you spend with Glenda, the better it gets. But if you're closing 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 of your proposals, how many of those will turn into paid bookings? Because that's exactly how a restaurant calculates. If I have X number of tables full every night, they turn 1.5 times. That means, and I have X number of patrons, people in my restaurant, the average check per table is this amount. My food costs are under control, and your food costs in your travel business are your operating costs, then I should make X amount of profit. And unfortunately for a restaurant, the restaurants don't have it as good as you guys in travel, because once a night has closed, once the restaurant closes its doors every night, that revenue is lost. They can't have a bigger night the next night to make up for it, because the next night needs to account for the next night's profit. So you can't say, well, I had got 30% of my restaurant revenue in tonight. It's okay. I'll make up for it tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a great night out. It's not raining. No, because tomorrow's revenue was promised for tomorrow. There is no way, easy way, that a restaurant can just have more people in the restaurant, because they've calculated their revenue. In travel, if you don't have a good week, you can have a better next week and book double the amount of trips. But you have got to know these numbers. And that's why, I have always been a big pusher of email marketing. Email marketing is the number one marketing tactic on the planet. On the planet, for the last 48 years that we've had email marketing has been number one. It offers a return on your investment like no other marketing tactic. Because at the end of the day, when you can email your audience and tell them, hey, I have this incredible, amazing travel opportunity. It came past my desk this morning. A river cruise line has a brand new itinerary out. It's going to be in Colombia. They're opening bookings next week to a VIP select group of people, including our agency. Here's the starting price. Here's the travel dates. Here's the book by date. Here's the deposit due. Here's the final payment date. This is where you're going. This is the destination. These are the experiences. Click here to schedule a quick 15-minute call to ask me any questions, or click here to pay for your planning service so that we can get you booked. When you have 10,000, 5,000, 2,000 people on your email list and you can send out an email like that, that's when you get 25, 30, 35 bookings back. And that's what I see in my community every single day. The people with the healthy, engaged email list that see this travel opportunity come past their desk, send it out on an email, they literally get back 5, 10, 20, 25 bookings every time they do that. And they don't do it all the time. They might do it every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks, but it's like a faucet. You can turn it on, bookings come in. You can turn it off, bookings stop coming in, or they trickle in. Social media doesn't allow you to do that because when you post, only 4%, confirmed stat by Meta, only 4% of your audience will see it, as opposed to when you send an email, 99% will receive it. I want to share a really quick story about during the pandemic. I live in Los Angeles with my husband and our child, and we're more eat at home kind of people, but we love going out to restaurants. Just the cost of restaurants here means you kind of just go a little bit less. During the pandemic, I got an email right at the beginning, like during those 2 weeks when we thought, when we thought we were only staying at home for 2 weeks, I got an email from one of the restaurants in our neighborhood, and we had eaten there once. Straight up once. We went in and we got a box. It's a bakery that also does hot meals, and they have their franchise. They have a couple in the city. We got an email from them, and our first purchase from them had been about 6 months earlier. We get this email in the second week of the stay-at-home order, and it says, hey, we know you've got to stay at home. So what we've done is we've packaged together a 20-minute meal, and that's 20 minutes in the oven, ready to go. Walk in your front door, put it in the oven. So we have them right down here now. Put your oven on preheat, send someone down here and pick them up. And I remember looking and I said to my husband, this is email marketing at its best, because if they'd have posted this, I would not have seen it. Why? I'm not on my phone right now. Why? I might not be one of the 4% of their followers that actually saw the post because of the algorithm. But I got an email and it said, your dinner is ready. We've got dinner tonight. Or come down to the restaurant tonight. We've got dinner. It said something like that. So then I watched them over the next week. Glenda, it was amazing. They got this program together where you had to have your order in by 2 p.m. every day. And it was just 3 things on the menu. Like it might have even been 2 set dinners. It was it was 2. It was a vegetarian and a meat version, just 2 meals. And they prepped them in these aluminum trays that were ready to go straight into the oven. You would have to go online, order by 2 p.m. And then the drive-through would be open for 2 hours between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. So imagine in their kitchen in the morning, they're like in prep mode. By 2 p.m., they know exactly how many. They spend from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. getting everything plated up and organized, like not plated, but like in the trays. And then at 4:30 p.m., they're in the parking lot setting up these giant tables. It looked like a conference check-in. They had like a family name A through C, this table, and they had all these big letters up. And you just pulled in, and then a runner came. And they were like, last name. We're like, Mclemore, M. So they ran to the M table, and we had an order number 576, Mclemore. They ran to the table, looked for 576 because they didn't have to remember the name that way. And the name just got them to the right table. And then the 3 numbers got them the bag. And they ran to your car, and they would like hand it over the window, and they'd be like 20 minutes in the oven, 400 degrees, have a great night, new menu tomorrow. And you would drive out. Now, while we were waiting for them to get the meals, we also saw a giant sign that said tips at the beginning as you pulled out onto the street. So I had $5 ready, and I threw it in the tub in addition to my gratuity. We didn't get an email, Glenda, from any other restaurant in the 3 years of the pandemic. And I have to assume it's not because they didn't need help, but because they didn't have an email list. Yep. And so not knowing your numbers and not growing an email list would be my 2 biggest things that people get stuck on.
Absolutely. And I was writing notes, obviously, as you were going. And the one thing that really struck out to me in talking about how travel advisors or travel agencies and restaurants do have some similarities. But the one that really struck me that I would just like travel advisors to implement, I don't see Black Friday deals at a restaurant. We don't see President's Day. Maybe they have a featured drink, and the featured drink isn't always a better deal. Sometimes it comes in a different size. It comes repackaged. They didn't change their margins. They repackaged and featured it. They didn't worry about giving it better pricing, better this, better that. And yet nobody says, I can't go to that restaurant. They don't have a Black Friday deal. And so I would say a lot of that is very similar in a travel agency, you don't have to join that noise. That's also how you get lost in it. But the one thing I wanted to ask you about, Sandra, you were
Mhm,
talking about the power of the engaged list.
mhm.
How do you make your list engaged? What does that look like?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is that the haters on the email list and the skeptics are saying right now, I hate email. I get too many emails. I don't want to be part of the email clogging team that fills up people's inboxes. I agree. I get way too many emails and I love a good unsubscribe day. Like I will tell you on Black Friday, I did not go to the outlets and I did not go to the store and I was not shopping online. I was unsubscribing like a hero. I was going through clicking unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. Firstly, half of those brands I haven't heard from in I don't know. Secondly, the rest of them I don't remember getting on their email list. And so I agree that emails chug your inbox. And there's nothing more frustrating than getting emails that you don't want. But I challenge every person listening to this to tell me one, like just say it out loud to yourself. What is one? Don't overthink this. What is one person or one brand that you love getting emails from? Glenda, what is a brand or a person that you love to open their emails?
Oh wow, that's kind of on the spot because I am fully an unsubscribe queen.
Lifestyle.
Uh, but you know what? Actually, I do. I open Mel Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, the ones like when I get from Sales Gravy and some of the companies that I get my education from and I get my insights and things like that. If you send me discounts, I'm like, yeah, right. And I never
Yeah.
believe. I get an Amazon email, I swear to you, almost every day that says, we found something you might like. I
Mm-hmm.
find myself opening that more often than I would like because I'm like, I want to know how well you actually know me. Turns out they know me pretty good. I don't like it. But
Everybody has something though. Everyone has
yeah.
something. If you're into horses or like the new flavor of protein shake. Like
Mm,
that will get you to open the email if that's what you're into.
yes.
So right now, I love any email that's helping me to develop healthier habits. And it's not because it's the beginning of the year. I've been into this since about July last year. And Anthony and I have been losing weight. I'm so mad. He's lost more than me. He's down like 30 something pounds. I'm down 20 something pounds. And we are so into our wellness right now. So anything that is sleep related, getting more hours of sleep, drinking more water, eating more clean foods, anything that helps me to keep a more organized home, better finances. Those are the kinds of emails I love to open right now. Then there's all the other emails. So I have to ask everybody again, think about what you love to get. What are you so excited to see? If your favorite protein shake says 5 new flavors of protein shake, and that's the go-to that you usually buy, would you open that? Of course you would, because that's the protein shake that you like. If it was three hacks to getting to saving 50% of time on your laundry, I hate doing laundry. Our laundry in this house causes meltdowns. It takes 45 minutes to wash, an hour to dry, and 7 to 10 business days to put away. We are not good at laundry. So any email that's going to tell me this is going to help you to reduce your laundry time is gold for me. And actually, I did get an email once from this home organizer that I was subscribed to. And she said, quit trying to do your laundry a little bit every day if that makes you miserable. If doing a little bit of something every day makes you happy because you feel like you're just doing a little bit, that's good. That's not how we feel about laundry in this house. We don't like laundry. So we literally do our laundry on Sundays. On Sundays, when we're home, we're chilling out, we'll run 5 or 6 loads through. It all goes onto the spare bed, onto the guest bed, and that's where it gets folded and put away from there. The one thing that we hate doing the most, we only do once a week. So ask yourself, what emails do you love to get? And their emails, the answer is always going to be emails that bring you joy, emails that make your life easier, emails that preempt something that you have to do or solve in your life. So if you build an email list full of people who like to travel doing the same things and in the same style as the travel that you want to sell, and you can offer them, here are 5 ways to reduce your travel planning stress, then that is going to be the type of email that they're going to open. I want to know what are the 5 ways. Well, maybe the first way is if you do group travel, and this is something Anthony and I started doing in our family. We love traveling with other families. We do not like planning with other families. So we came up with the ultimate planning hack for traveling as a group. We decide where we are going, when we are going, what we are doing, and then we book it. Then we send an email to all of our people that we love to travel with, and we say, hey, it's time to travel with the Mclemores. This is what we're doing. We'd love you to come. If you want to, here's our point person. This is Melissa. She's our travel advisor. Go and book directly with her. She already knows our dates, but here's all the data. That is a travel hack for groups. That could be what you send out in your email. So that person who is responsible every year for that ridiculous task of getting everybody together, where are we going to go? What's everybody's budget? What's the best time of year? That could be the hack that you share that somebody opens in their inbox and says, you know what? I'm done with these people. I am going to do this. I am done with this family. I am done with these friends, with these neighbors. I'm going to choose where we're going. That way we always get our own way, and then we're going to invite them. And if someone else is smart enough in that group of people to say, oh, I'm going to do that too. They think we're going to Europe on a cruise. Well, I'm also going to book an Africa safari later on this year. And so that's a solution. Getting a healthy and engaged email list is about recognizing that you are not going to hit the mark for every single person who opens your email. A bunch of people are going to get annoyed, and a bunch of people are going to unsubscribe. And guess what? That is the purge and the filter at work doing its best job. Because if you send out an email about that group travel hack, how to get all your friends and family to go on that same vacation every year without the stress, here are 3 tips. The people who don't want to go on vacation with friends and family, the people who don't want to do any kind of forward planning for travel, they're going to unsubscribe. And herein, you have just won something. You have managed to filter out people who are not your audience. It's like the restaurant who sent out the email saying, come and pick up our meals, get your order in by 2 p.m. The people who unsubscribed from that email are the people who would never do something like that. And if they would never do something like that, they don't need to be on the email list. They don't need to receive annoying emails. That's what classifies as an annoying email to them. The restaurant is happy that they unsubscribed because now they're only emailing the people who want the meals. And this, of course, has a positive impact when you're looking at the analytics, the numbers behind your email weeks or months later. You'll be like, oh, wow, that one email that we said where we mentioned vegetarian and meat options in the title, that one hit better than 2 things to choose from email. And so I think if you're not yet started on email marketing, or if you're just getting started, or you have to restart because it hasn't been good for you, I think you have to do that mindset shift first. You have to admit, you have to get to a place where you're comfortable and you can say out loud, I am so happy to email these people weekly. The people who are happy to receive it will open it. The people who are not happy to receive it are not for me, and I am not for them. It's like going on a date with someone who doesn't even like you. Why would you want to put yourself through that? Why would you want to be a friend to someone who doesn't have time for you? We start to filter out people in our lives. We filter out food. If you don't eat mushrooms because they make your belly hurt, you stop eating mushrooms. It's the same thing with email subscribers. They will self-filter, so you don't need to do it for them. But I ask you to keep this in mind. If 30% of your email list opened your email and 6% clicked on it, that 30% felt the same way about getting your email as I did about getting the laundry hack or the new protein powder or the meal pickup from the restaurant. Those people were waiting on something from you, like a mother with a newborn is waiting for an email to come through on how to get her baby to sleep. You have to remember that you do have a solution and you do have valuable information. And that fear of being annoying or showing up in people's inbox, you got to quit that ish.
And you know what? There's so much that I kind of want to unpack there. One, it's the don't be scared of getting unsubscribes. It's okay because it's absolutely necessary. And if your only goal in building your list is to completely avoid the unsubscribes, you're headed for a world of pain because one, they're just going to move you to junk, which is going to lower you down. 2, you're probably not putting anything out because we all know that if you don't ever send anything, you don't get an opportunity to unsubscribe. But the other thing is that it just because you send out one doesn't mean that that's going to trigger a whole landfall of unsubscribes. So I know sometimes that prevents us from sending something out to begin with. I'm actually going to tell you a little story about what's going on in my business right now. I have a workshop that's coming up that's for an exclusive group. They had to subscribe to get on there. I only send one email a week. They have not been on there very long at all. And in fact, I sent out, before we went live, I sent out the reminder email because it's taking place this week, and somebody unsubscribed from the reminder email. And they were getting a workshop that they signed up for, and yet they've unsubscribed. And I thought, wow. So I think they've only received about 2 emails, maybe 3 from the time they knew what they were signing up for, and they're already out. And you know what? All I thought was, oh, good. Because that's not somebody I want to have in there. Because like you were saying earlier, when you know you have an email list of a certain size and you can start calculating out your conversions and other such, you don't want people who are never going to convert to be in there. So the best way and the best marketing will repel as many people as it attracts, because you want to know who you're bringing in. There's restaurants in my town that I haven't been to. One, for a variety of reasons. One, I don't like that type of food. 2, I have allergies to that type of food, so I don't go there. But I'm not going to say it's a bad restaurant. I'm not going to say anything about it. It's just not the one that I choose to go to. So rather than going there, having a terrible experience, I just don't go there. I went to a restaurant I used to go to all the time. They changed out one of their ingredients. I had a major allergic reaction. Guess what? I'm not going back. And I'm telling people, heads up, they didn't update their this, that, the other, because they weren't being transparent. When you're transparent with your emails and you're making it very clear who it is you're talking to, who it is that you want to have conversations with, and not just immediately going into just the sale. I love what you were saying, that the emails that excite you the most. And really, when I think back, I'm like, yeah, these are the ones that excite me the most. It's not when they're trying to sell me something. It's when they're like, I have a solution. And a lot of times it's giving a solution, because then I'm like, ooh, I got something good out of that one. So when the next one comes, even if the subject line doesn't hit me, I'm like, I'm going to open it. And then once you've built up that law of reciprocity where you've given, you've now earned the right to ask in return.
Yeah, I have a lot of people in my community. We've helped over 42,000 travel advisors in the last 7 years. And I have a lot of people who'll say to me, I open every email that you send. And I think, oh, that's nice. I don't do that for any brand. And I say, oh, that's great. Thank you. Why? And they say, because it'll always have something there for me, and I can choose in that moment if I need it or not. One thing that I will caution your listeners, because I made this mistake and I'm getting better at it now. Last year, I realized it after 6 years in business. You have to find the balance of giving free solutions and information and selling. Because as many people know, I sell courses, coaching programs, tools, and content. Basically, our business is that we help travel advisors and agencies get a consistent stream of new clients. And we do that through the 3 C's: coaching, content, and community. We sell all 3. And one of the mistakes that I made was, because our company doesn't always sell stuff. Like, yes, our online shop is open all the time, but our courses only open at certain times of year. Our coaching programs only open at certain times of year. We are literally selling in our business for about 4 weeks out of 52. So for 48 weeks, I'm just giving free stuff and giving value and giving information. And my coach turned around and said, you watch yourself there, Sandra Mclemore, because if people build up I guess like not a tolerance, but if they build up a habit of getting from you for free, when you go to sell, they're going to be like, well, I actually do real good with all the stuff she puts out for free, so I probably don't need this. Now, many people will say, gosh, if her free stuff is this good, I can't imagine what her paid stuff is. But there is a balance there. So my recommendation for travel agencies is to send a free, helpful, non-sales piece of content every week, on the same day every week. It could be a podcast episode. It could be, so in our business, we do 2 podcast episodes a week. We do a standard episode. Well, it's not standard, it's powerful. We do a powerful episode on a Thursday, and on Fridays, we do a Q&A. And we send one email on a Saturday morning or Friday night that says, hey, here are the 2 episodes for this week. Go for a walk, fold some laundry, lay on the couch, hide in the closet, whatever your thing is, and listen to these 2 episodes. So that goes out every single week. But we also have to remember that if we're not actively selling, they're not actively buying. Mm-hmm. And when people are not actively buying, they're not thinking about buying, or they're not thinking about referring their friends and family, or they come into your community, but because you didn't offer them anything to buy, they didn't think to ask. So I definitely think a weekly piece of content, it might be an email link to your latest blog episode, or to your blog, or to your podcast, or to your video. But then you want to be sending out a sales email every 4 weeks to 6 weeks, and only to people who have been in your community for 4 to 6 weeks. So if someone joined your email list last week, they should not be getting a sales email this week, because it's too soon. It's like asking someone to move in with you when you've just been dating them a week. It's too soon. You're asking them for money. It's too soon. So if they joined last week, you would skip that group for this email, but they would get the next sales email. So essentially, you would be sending 4 weeks of blogs or podcast episode links. And they're not newsletters. Like nobody wants a newsletter. For all you who are doing newsletters, quit that ish. No big brand sends newsletters telling their list. Like, when's the last time that you got a newsletter from BMW telling you about what they did this week in their business, what the CEO is doing, vacation season, the car industry, changes they're seeing in the automotive industry? No, all they sell is the dream of owning a BMW, the features and the benefits. That's all they sell. So go to do what brands do, not what people do. Individuals and people, churches send newsletters, schools send newsletters, community groups send newsletters. You are none of those. You are a business. So send business emails. So it'll be like your blog for 4 weeks in a row. And then on a different day of the week, in that 4th week, you might want to send out a river cruise opportunity, or a new overland tour, or a new resort. And then keep going with your 4 emails every week. And then on that next time, you might want to send a new ship opening out, pre-bookings or something like that. I think that that's really critical, that you find yourself in a rhythm between marketing and sales, and that you're not marketing all year and waiting for the sales to come to you. Because sometimes it's that email that's like, hey, you probably didn't think about us for dinner tonight, but we've got a tray of food down here. Just preheat your oven, click to pay, and come and get it. People are like that with vacations as well. Maybe they didn't think of cruising on the Magdalena River in Colombia in March next year. But maybe your email that went out that said, hey, this amazing travel opportunity, one of my favorite cruise lines, you do not mention the supplier, but you say, one of my favorite cruise lines is starting a brand new itinerary in Colombia, 2 breathtaking new build ships. It's like sleeping in a hotel room when no one else has. It's going to hit up this destination, all of these cities from Cartagena to, oh gosh, my mind's blank, but the Palenque culture, the dance, the fruit, the birds, the music, the rhythms of the river starts. Travel is between this date and this date for this special. Deposit is this, book by this date. This is what's included, a big image gallery so that they can really see what they're going to be getting. Click here to make your booking with me, or click here for a 15-minute Q&A. And I think that you can plant seeds for vacations that people didn't know they wanted to take by sending that sales email, but you cannot send sales emails if you're not sending out your marketing emails.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's finding that balance and building that community, but also waiting for your turn, that reciprocity factor that you've got to wait to be able to ask them. So if a travel advisor is brand new and they're like, I don't even know where to start with my marketing, what's the first step?
Yeah, so I think the first step is doing your numbers. And doing your numbers means sitting down with a workbook, and literally you can create one. We have a free one on our website, but you can create your own. You can make someone create it for you. I will tell you that I have a hate-hate relationship with Excel, but after several months of building a workbook, I'm happy to share it because I don't want anyone to go through the trauma or the PTSD that Excel gave me. Start with a workbook. Start with putting down your numbers. What type of travel do you want to sell? Who are your 6 to 10 suppliers? What commission do they pay? If you don't know, then you need to ask your host agency. What is your split inside of your agency? And for those of you who are super new, what I mean by that is your river cruise line might pay you 20% commission, but if you are not the owner of your agency, perhaps you have an arrangement with your agency that you get a certain percentage of your commission. Also, the owner of the agency would be sharing their commission with their host agency if they have it. So all of those calculations are important. That will give you a really good indication of how many people you need to sell to. I then have a formula that helps you to know how many people you should have on your email list. It'll calculate automatically, but you can change it if you have more data. There are some things that you can adjust, and that's for people who have been in business for a minute. Once you've got your numbers, you then have to map out a marketing funnel. You literally have to say, what am I going to do to turn strangers, people who have never heard about me, into email subscribers? And then once they are email subscribers, what am I going to send them every week? Am I comfortable starting a podcast? Am I comfortable doing video? If not, I'm at least going to get a blog up, and I'm going to send a blog out every single week. But one piece of advice I will give you is that through doing these numbers, doing this mapping out of your marketing funnel, you have to make sure that every single thing that you do every day is in alignment with your sales goals. I literally sit down and look at my inbox, and I get invitations all the time to speak at conferences and awards nights, and to escort fam trips is the new thing I'm getting in my inbox, and to, do a webinar for a supplier or a tourism board. And I always have to ask myself that, like, the inside of me, I want to say yes, 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 yes to everything. But I have to stop and ask myself, Sandra, is this in alignment with your sales goals? None of these things, mapping out your numbers, mapping out a marketing funnel, getting started on your content, is something that should just come naturally to you. Nobody's expecting that you would know what to do. So you pick a mentor, you pick a coach, you pick somebody who has receipts, who has done what they're telling you they've done, either for themselves or for other people. Like Glenda is a great sales coach because she did great sales herself. I am a brilliant marketing coach because I've coached tens of thousands of travel agencies who have the results. So always pick a coach that you can align with, someone who will show up for you, that will help you to show up for yourself. Map out your numbers, map out your marketing funnel, start producing your weekly content. But most importantly, once you've done those things, you've got to advertise and promote your group. It's like the restaurant owner that opens the restaurant and then everybody just sits in there waiting for people to file in. It's not going to happen. They have the advantage that they're a bricks and mortar. The internet doesn't work like that. The internet's not going to send you clients. I wish that the internet would send you clients. I really would like that for you, but it's not how life works.
No, absolutely. It's not the field of dreams. You cannot just build it and they will come. There is an entire process to it. So we're going to link that workbook up, or the link to it, in the show notes. If people want to connect with you, find you, where should they do that?
Yeah, I think the best way, if you haven't switched off already, which you haven't, it means that you can tolerate my very direct coaching. I think our podcast is the best place for you. And you're here with Glenda because you already love podcasts. Glenda and I listen to each other's podcasts. So you can do that. I think my podcast is the best place to start. And I would literally start with episode number 2. People ask me, why not number 1? Number 1 is just about me and my journey, and that's not important to you right now. So start at episode number 2. If you're the kind of person that likes to stalk your Facebook friends from high school, go start at number 1. I feel you. There are just some people built like that. But start at number 2 and just listen to every episode. Work your way through them, because I think that when you have podcasting, to me, is the best way to take in information, because you shouldn't be doing other things while you're doing it. Just walk, fold laundry, lay on the couch. If you've got kids, hide in a closet and just start listening to podcast episodes. Do the workbook that Glenda's kindly linking. And yeah, just don't take on too many coaches and mentors and people. Stick with your one person that you have, Glenda, for your sales. Stick with me or someone else if you prefer someone else for marketing. Just stick with those, because Marketing and sales are the only two things that you need right now. You don't need to be doing more supplier training. Marketing and sales, the proper word for them in business is actually, the translation is traffic and conversion. Marketing is your traffic. Sales is your conversion. And you've got to focus on traffic and conversion for your business, because without traffic, you have no sales. Without marketing, you have no sales. Without leads, you have no bookings. So that would be my biggest advice.
Fabulous. I love it. The one thing I just want to reiterate at the end here is that there is no magic formula. There is no express pass that's going to get you from here in a blink to there. We don't have fairy godmothers. You're going to have to do the work. And anybody who tells you that they've got a magic formula, don't believe them. That's just, straight up. But one thing, Sandra, you left off. What is the name of your podcast?
Oh, it's the travel marketing. It's the Travel Marketing and Media Podcast. You can also just type Sandra Mclemore, Mclemore, Sandra Mclemore, into wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can listen right on our website, or we're on Apple, Spotify, and Google. But yeah, start with a podcast. It's the best place to start.
Fabulous. Well, until next week, guys, happy selling, and we will see you right back here. Bye-bye.